The breaking news this morning, we just learned moments ago when the critical moment in the criminal trial of Donald Trump is coming. Michael Cohen set to take the witness stand on Monday. Remember, Donald Trump is charged with falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, adult film actress, all to influence the 2016 election. Michael Cohen is the key piece for prosecutors to make this case. It is Michael Cohen who would likely provide the testimony that Donald Trump somehow knew or was connected to the falsification of documents. He will take the stand on Monday. As I said, this will be a dramatic moment. CNN's Kristen Holmes live outside the court with this new information. Also, Kristen, it does beg the question, what will we see today in this trial?
Yeah, so first we'll talk about Michael Cohen, because this is something that we know both prosecution and the defense have been preparing for. We have been watching the prosecution lay out their case brick by brick, but that missing piece is tying Donald Trump to those payments, a knowledge of Donald Trump, and it appears that Michael Cohen is going to be that missing link. He will be laying out exactly what he says happened with this hush money payment and these reimbursement payments. Now, in terms of how the defense is going to handle this, remember what we have said from the very beginning. They plan on going attack mode fully on Michael Cohen, painting him as an unreliable witness, some of which we saw, or a little taste of what we saw when we saw that cross-examination of Stormy Daniels yesterday, really tearing into her, being aggressive, picking up old posts, Twitter posts, as well as looking at passages of her book, old interviews. You can expect the same thing when the defense goes after Michael Cohen as well. The big question, of course, will be, what does the jury think? And that's just not something either side really knows the answer to. Now, what we're talking about today, we are still finishing up that testimony with Madeleine Westerhout. She is an ex-White House aide. She sat outside of the Oval Office, and she was the one who set up the meeting between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump, where Michael Cohen alleges they had this conversation about the repayment for these financial payments, the hush money payment. Now, the reason why Westerhout is such an important witness is because she was really privy to almost everything during this time frame that we have been talking about. She was not only just sitting outside of the Oval Office, but she was really in control of his schedule. She was next to him almost at all times. One of the things we talk about a lot with former President Donald Trump is the fact that he doesn't like to text. He doesn't like to use his own phone. Well, if you wanted to get in touch with the former president at this time, two of the people you go to, Hope Hicks or Madeleine Westerhout. She was really the eyes and ears at that point. And remember, this was a chaotic time. The former president didn't really think he was probably going to make it into office. And so because of that, there was constant stream of people in and out, big meetings, all of which Madeleine Westerhout can attest to. So obviously we're waiting to see what it is, the big key element of her testimony with the prosecution today. We expect that to happen later this morning.
All right, Kristen Holmes for us outside the courthouse. You know, this news that Michael Cohen testifies Monday, what this really sets up, Kate, is everything we will hear today, everything up until this point, is trying to narrow that amount that Michael Cohen has to testify to for the prosecution. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it.
It is all the groundwork being laid for it. We do know that Donald Trump has arrived at court. Things are about to get underway very shortly. We also know that Donald Trump did not leave court happy yesterday. For the new reporting on why and what the people around him plan to do about it, Elena Train back with us with much more. What is it that set him off?
Well, look, I think it was a number of things, Kate. I mean, clearly, Donald Trump was very angry. I think it was clear to our reporters in the courtroom, but also in my conversations with Donald Trump's team behind the scenes, they acknowledged this was a very uncomfortable week for Donald Trump, a very challenging week. And really, Stormy Daniels was one of the witnesses that they were the most worried about because they were afraid that she was going to share some very salacious details about the former president. And that's exactly what we saw on display during her testimony this week. And one key thing they keep telling me over and over again is they are not sure how this could play out in a general election. From the politics side of this, which I cover, that is the huge question, is how will general election voters view this? And they really do not know how that is going to play out. Now, we did see a post overnight actually from Stormy Daniels where she was kind of taunting Donald Trump, saying that, you know, maybe you should be testifying. And that's the kind of thing where when I talk to Trump's team, they say this is exactly why we're so frustrated about the gag order, because they have witnesses. We're going to see this play out with Michael Cohen next week, who are able to attack Donald Trump, tell their side of the story. And for someone like Trump, it's like his inner psychological being thinks that he needs to defend himself, and he wants to be able to publicly push back on some of these claims that he is hearing. And he's unable to do that. We saw the judge reiterate that yesterday when they said, no, this falls within the gag order. You cannot respond here, even though his lawyers had tried to see if they could have a way around that.
Also, Donald Trump, after what happens today, Donald Trump's heading back on the campaign trail this weekend. What are you hearing about it?
You know, it's actually really interesting. Just speaking of the gag order, it's going to be very difficult for the former president to not violate the gag order this weekend, knowing, right off the heels of this explosive testimony from Stormy Daniels and ahead of what we now know will be Michael Cohen's testimony beginning Monday. But look, he's going to be heading to New Jersey. I know, very interesting. People close to the former president kind of raised their eyebrows at this as well. He's going to be holding a rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. No hate on Jersey. I'm from there. But it's not a critical battleground state, and when I've talked to some people, part of it is the proximity to New York. Donald Trump doesn't want to travel far. It's close to his Bedminster Golf Club, but his campaign also argues that they'll be able to get some of the media attention from the nearby actual battleground state of Pennsylvania, the Philly suburbs, that sort of thing. And we've seen Donald Trump actually visit the Jersey Shore and Wildwood itself in the past. But it is a very interesting choice, especially as we know he hasn't been campaigning that much, despite him having the opportunity and complaining that the court and the judge is keeping him from hitting the campaign trail. This is only his third rally, or I should say second day of hitting the campaign trail since this trial started.
Yeah.
Kate?
Elena Treen with the Jersey disclosure. It's great to see you, Elena. Thank you so much.